Got it. Okay. It would be nice if you can see what I all have recapped. Hare Krishna. So let us go. So let me see if anybody has responded. Sin, compassion, yes. I think others also can remember. I'll put something. So before we start, let us pay obeisance to Sri Radha Govinda. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Nana Kashalakaya Chakshulmitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Abhishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Ayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vittam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakana Vittam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dino Bandho Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpaturabhyascha Kripa Sindhu Abhayevacha Patitam Nam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatesha Tarine Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So everyone, thank you for coming. So let us start. So let me see what are the 5 reasons which Arjuna gave. So some say compassion, sin, and what were the other 3? Okay. For not writing. And what was the mood of Dhritarashtra? Yes, Mataji. Jai Shri Mataji, you can tell me. Hare Krishna.
Forcing no enjoyment in victory, then fear of sinful activities.
Okay.
I think
compassion.
Compassionate was already said. I think destroying the family.
Yes, family traditions. Yes. And then the last one, Mataji. One more was there, 5. He was indecision. He was not able to decide whether to fight or not. And what was the Dhritarashtra's mood? He was anxious.
He was anxious and he was doubtful.
Yes. Because what was the reason?
He was doubtful because this was a Dharma Kshetra, religious place.
Yes. And he knew he had done a lot of sins to his relatives. He knew. Yes.
Relatives.
And why he did it? Because
he was very attached
to he wanted to be the king all the time.
Yes, he wanted to be the king and he was also attached. He was saying, Mamaka.
Yes, Mamaka.
My sons.
My sons have to do. And all these things came about because he was dissatisfied. Why he was doing this? Because he was physically blind and he thought he was not able to become the king because of physical ability. Though he was living in the palace and he had best of people around, brothers and the grandfather, but still he was not satisfied. He had that thing in his heart and he was allowed the adharma to take place. And how did we see on Duryodhana? He was fear. There was a fear in him. That's why he came running to Dronacharya, isn't it? And you see his mentality that he will do anything, even sacrificing his own kith and kin, right? So and these were the interesting points. And yesterday you all said I think Sriranjani, they said that Arjuna was talking like a ordinary person. Though he was a Kshatriya, he was trained and he was intelligent, but he was talking like an ordinary person. Was focused on English speaking people because that was his mission, his order from his spiritual master. And we are going to learn more about the Guru, the coming set. Even today, we'll see how Krishna as a Guru, he addresses all these questions. And why we need to, when we study Bhagavad Gita, we need to introspect. We have to see why. I mean, if we see the Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, it's not just in the Mahabharata. There we see even in today's world, okay, that kind of people or with a mentality. And the grief experienced by Arjuna is family. And more so why now this Corona period, lot of people lost their relatives, dear ones and things, and it was really the experience grief was quite acute. And you may have the mentality of Duryodhana, maybe selfish, and sometimes we ask why this is happening only to me and I've not done anything and I've been them, why these things happen to us. So these are the things which it will be addressed in Bhagavad Gita, we'll see that. And one more thing was very astonishing is all this while Arjuna is giving reasons and reasons and reasons, Krishna is keeping quiet and is not interrupting Arjuna's lamentation. So in Bhagavad Gita, we are learning 5 topics have been addressed. One is Ishvara, who is the controller, is the absolute truth. And what is the Jiva, living entity, us. And he's going to talk about Prakriti, this material world, and the Kala, time, because Kalosmi, and the Karma. Karma is the activities. These first 4 is all eternal, whereas Karma activities is by the Jivas. Okay. So this is how we recap. And as you all said, compassion, no enjoyment, sin from the escape. Okay. So let us begin here. So what was the connection from chapter 1 and 2? In previous chapter, Sanjaya concluded saying, now Arjuna is not going to fight. This made Dhritarashtra very joyful. He was so happy. He said, okay, now the Pandavas will renounce the kingdom and they'll go away. But continuing the next chapter, you see Sanjaya saying, Dhritarashtra is hopeful of not losing the kingdom for his sons, begins to describe how Krishna is inspiring Arjuna to fight. Okay. And this is like, Krishna won't just give answer to one query. He's going to address the entire thing. Okay, that's what we see. And this type of situation where you have to fight your own guru and you have to fight your own grandparents, I think this is not the first time in Kurukshetra. This has happened in history also. Okay, so we have some list from the histories, like, when Daksha's sons, Darshas and Baulas, they all wanted to, they went to forest to do austerity, but Narada Muni said, why do this? You just take to Krishna consciousness. Then Prahlad, how he was opposing his own father, and he was telling this is a thing. So these are the father and son opposing their own father, and we see that. And also we see older brother and younger brother. The thing between Ravana and Vibhishana, that's also there, where Vibhishana will oppose the Ravana and he'll come to the side of Lord Rama because he wants to be in the thing. And also priest. Yeah, Bali Maharaj went against his spiritual master because he had promised Vamana thing to give 3 steps. So this kind of thing, situations comes in everything, whether it's priest and host, and then to see husband and wife, and also family people, whether live there. Even Prabhupada left his family, when only then he was able to focus on his mission for his spiritual master. So these type of sacrifices for Krishna you see everywhere, right? So now in this chapter, when we see, starts with 5 sections. In the first, we'll see Arjuna will be explained. Now we're going to see what is Krishna's reaction. He's going to ask, why are you so giving these reasons? He was saying, you are a Kshatriya, right? And I didn't expect this from you. Then Arjuna is giving some more reasons. He says no, and he will argue. And finally, he comes to this indecision. He says, I can't decide now to do. Now you have been I am your student, I am a disciple, you are like a guru, you have to tell me. You have to come. I know I have been bewildered. Then, only then, when Arjuna turns towards Krishna and says, you please tell me what I should do, what is best for me, that's when Krishna starts explaining the whole thing. The first time is if he understands that it is coming from his emotional part. So it's not that as intelligently he knows that he has to fight. Yes, that's how the war has been declared and they have come to the battlefield and all that. But once he sees his own thing there, he is disturbed. So first thing he gives him the jnana. He talks about the analysis about the Atma Tattva. What is, we are the soul and not the body. And you are not killing anybody because they are there yesterday and they'll be tomorrow also and they'll be in the next birth. And the birth after birth, you're going to see, and you're not killing the soul, and soul cannot be killed. So he gives the detailed explanation of the transmigration on 20 verses. And then continues to say, and it is your duty now to do this because you're a Kshatriya and you have to do as a dharma, and you don't have to worry whether win enjoyment. There's no question of enjoyment or losing because you are doing your duty. So then he explains about his duties for dharma, and then he says you must do, and now says for sinful. For that he says you have to do it as a nishkama karma yoga. You have to do it for the Lord because everything you have to sacrifice the fruits because you are not the only cause for the any action. There is other elements there and you are not the only one. So you have to do it for the Lord, then you won't be incurring any sin. Then finally, how I can do such a thing? You have to be indecisive. So then he talks about the self-realized soul. How is the person is determined? His determination is dridha. He is drid and is determined. And how? What are the reasons which could pull you out of from the determination? So finally, we're going to see the qualities of a liberated soul. So this is how this overview of this chapter. So for compassion, he gives the jnana, that the Atma Tattva. And for no enjoyment, he talks about his prescribed duties. Otherwise, he is a Kshatriya, and if he runs away from the battle, his own enemies will scorn. Then he gives the Buddhi Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. That is, you have to do for the Lord. Only then there won't be any reactions. And then for Karma Yoga, he tells you to do. And finally, about indecision starts in this verse 2.6, where that is the turning point in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna had to start giving the signs of Krishna. Okay. So this is the famous verse. I think you all think. Arjuna surrenders to Krishna. Karpanya dosha bhakta swabaha prachami tvam dharma samuda chetaha echyasya nishchitam brohi tanme shishyasteham sadhi ma tamam prapana. Anyone wants to read this translation? Anyone can offer? Hare Krishna. Otherwise, I'll be only listening to my voice. I won't know whether you're listening to me. Anyone wants to? Yes, Mataji, go ahead. Jai Shri Mataji.
Asharam, Sharam Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So now what he's saying, I'm confused what I should do. And because he understands that he's become weak, that he is emotionally, he's been disturbed. And he's telling, now you clearly tell me what is best for me. What is best for me to do? It's not that for best for all. He's telling what is best for me. And now I'm surrendered unto you and I'm a disciple. So now the relationship between the two have changed. See, now before that, he tells in the last chapter when he was telling, Krishna, please take me to the middle of the field. I want to see who all have come. So, Madhya, take me there, and he sees. That time it was just a relation or a friendly relationship because he is a charity and he was asking Krishna, please take me there. I want to see who all have come there to fight with us. But after seeing them and then how he gets disturbed, and now he's telling, I am your disciple because this cannot be given by anything. Only you can clear my doubts. And so I have surrendered to you. So now the relationship has changed to a guru and a Shishya. So that is the thing where he says surrender. Only when he says that and turns towards Krishna, that's when Krishna will accept. Otherwise, he was silently, he was telling, what is this? So this is a very important turning point here. And you can see like many who have surrendered to Krishna have been helped. Like, Gajendra Stuti, we know. Even Indra, when he brings a lot, because he couldn't understand that little boy was the Lord Krishna. So he brings lot of rains, and then Krishna had lifted the Govardhan hill. And then Indra realizes his mistakes and comes to surrenders to the Lord for forgiveness. And we know Prahlad, how he knew, he was absorbed in the Lord Narayana. Whatever the father had done to him, Hiranyakashipu, he was not disturbed. He had surrendered himself to the Lord. So that we see, and also Hanuman, how is the relationship. So people who have surrendered, Krishna has given them things. So now we are going to see how Krishna is a good teacher. Krishna says, "O descendant of Bharata," at that time Krishna, this is Sanjaya is telling to Dhritarashtra, that this is what Krishna told Arjuna, "O descendant of Bharata." At that time Krishna, smiling in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken preacher. So you see, he was not scolding, he was smiling. He didn't say, "Oh, you come now and you're throwing your tantrums," and he didn't do that. He says, "What is this? You're telling me this." At that time he was very smiling. And then he says, "Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashoshanti Anvashostvam Prajna Vadamscha Bhashase Katasun Agatumscha Nanu Shoshanti Pandita." So, what did the blessed Lord say? While speaking learned words, your mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. So he is not giving him any scoldings or anything. This very smilingly he says. There are two things we have to notice here in this sloka. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, and then he's talking and he's addressing Arjuna, saying, "You are talking like you are a Pandita, the learned words. But Pandita will never, the one who is wise, they don't lament nor for the living nor for the dead." So he's not bending. He's very calm and he's only telling him the reasons. Okay. So he listens the whole chapter very silently. He gives the knowledge Gita only when Arjuna is ready. Only when he's ready and he surrenders, that's when the Gita is spoken. And there's no anger at Arjuna. And he will answer all the questions in short immediately, so that it will encourage. He won't think, Arjuna need not have to wait. Oh, that doubt has not been, that reason has not been understood and all that. But in this chapter he gives. And finally what he says, Arjuna, do what you like. There's no force. So this is how we see Krishna as the best teacher in this Bhagavad Gita. And one more thing, as I said, we here in this Vedas writes Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. So whenever Arjuna speaks, we say Arjuna Uvacha or Sanjaya Uvacha, Dhritarashtra Uvacha and things. But when we say the Lord Krishna speaks, we say Bhagavan Uvacha, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. We don't say Krishna Uvacha because he is Bhagavan. Okay, he is the absolute. So how do we understand this is, see, we'll take this example here. I mean, you and the far off, you're driving somewhere, and the far off, you see a lot of mountains and trees and things. Only when you go slowly nearby, you see on the mountains a lot of trees. As you go even much nearer, you see there is a turret. So at the outset, we won't understand the Lord so easily. Only when you start learning about and start seeing his energy around and seeing things, the first thing we realize is the Brahman. That is the stage when you come, saying that he is there as the energy, is the Brahman realization. And slowly when you understand more and more, and then you realize he's there in every living entity. I have nothing more beyond that. That is the next Paramatma realization. And finally we come to the Bhagavan realization. And Parashara Muni, that is Vedavyas thing, has given a clear definition what we mean by Bhagavan. So Bhagavan is one who has got all the knowledge. That means it's all the knowledge from him, is all powerful, is all wealthy, and nothing beauty, fame, austerity. But in this world, we see, some might have the knowledge, but he may not be wealthy enough. Some might be beautiful, but she may not have the knowledge or the power, or people might have the power, but See, all the 5, 6 attributes were nothing. Only with Bhagavan he can. And all these realization, as I said, Brahman, Paramatma thing, there is another analogy given by Prabhupada. There he says, now when you see sunshine, the minute you see sunshine, then you can understand there is a sun there. Otherwise, there won't be any sunlight, right? So, how do you realize the presence of the sun? By its sunshine. Okay? And then, when you're so interested and to know from where it comes and all that, when you look up, then you see there is a sun disk over there, up in the sky. From there, we are getting the sunlight. From where we are getting the heat energy, the light energy. So, when you start understanding, then you know, study a little bit more, then you realize there's a sun planet over there, sun god, and from there only everything is emanating. Same way when we understand the outside, the first step when you start understanding the Lord, it is by Brahman realization. And then when you slowly understand that he is pervading everywhere and is living in every living entity, is Paramatma. Okay? And then when we start understanding more and more about the Lord, then you come to the realization that these are the ways you get. Same way how we go from sunlight, we understand the sun, and from the thing this, we go into a deeper life. So, Bhagavan will have this definition of Bhagavan Uvacha, who is the absolute truth. Okay, so that is where we start this platform, from where this science that the Lord is giving. So, we need to understand these 3 aspects of Brahman, absolute truth. Okay, any doubts in this? Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan? Okay, so this is a very important thing. Now is just addressing the question 1, that is compassion, isn't it? Dehino asmin yata dehe kaumaram yauvanam chara tata dehantra prapti dhiras tatra na mohati. Who wants to read this? This is a Atma Tattva where he's telling. Okay, anyone volunteering? Hare Krishna. Who was it? Anybody else?
May I read, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Go ahead.
That the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age. The soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So what is the thing he's saying? That we are the soul, okay, and not the body. And how is the soul doing? See, the body which we had the body when we were younger, no? When you was a baby, it was a body of this. Whereas as it grows, it becomes a youth and the old age, and the body is keep changing. And what doesn't change? Your consciousness, that the soul that you are. And you remember when you were young, you had that body. Who is remembering that? That is the soul. So the embodied soul is the one which is there when the body can change, but the soul doesn't change. It goes, continually passes. And once the body becomes weak and it dies, then you transmigrate to another. Okay. The soul similarly passes into another body at death. So tata dehantra prapti divas. And the self-realized soul, the person, dhira, he has understood that this body is the soul and not the body. So he's not worried. He doesn't lament whether when the death comes or when he's born again or thing, there is a birth and there is a death and there's a changes in the body. So he knows that is the soul is there and that is. So he's saying you are the soul and not the body. So and the self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Okay. So, dehino asmin yata dehe kaumaram yavan jara. That is, the body goes from passes, soul will keep going. As the body changes, the soul is there permanently and it changes. So, the Lord says, and this happens, and once it goes, there is a thing. Then he's changing the body. It's like you change your clothes. As you change your clothes, once the body is not required, it goes, and then you go take another body at death. So self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. So Krishna is answering. So what are you killing? You are not killing anybody because only the body is changed. And even the Bhishmadev or Dronachari, they will leave that body and take another body. So you are not killing the soul of the Bhishmadev. The soul will be there. And they were on all these kings and the army over there. They were there before also. And they will also be after death. They will again be there in the world. They will take another body. So you are not killing anyone. So whom are you killing? The soul cannot be killed. And then he goes to explain how the soul cannot be destroyed. So in this 20 verses, he gives the explaining about the soul, whether it cannot be destroyed by Nainam Chindanti Shastrani, Nainam Dahati Pavakaha, Na Chainam Kledanti Apo, Na Shoshati Martha. That means the whole cannot be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor it can be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by nothing. You cannot do anything to the soul. The soul is there. It only changes its body, has its distinct functions. But you will feel bad. That is there. You will, when the person dies and things are natural, that you will be upset. You will be thinking. But you have to tolerate it. Because just like we tolerate the seasons, the summer comes, then the winter comes, and then the season changes. So we have to tolerate. And so it doesn't mean that in the summer you don't cook because it's so hot and all that. You do, the mother does the cooking, isn't it? Even if it is hot in the summer, or take bath in the cold water also in winter. So you have to tolerate all the seasons. So the same way you have to tolerate the changes in the relationship with the people, because, and you cannot cut. So you are not cutting anybody, you are not killing anyone. So why are you worried? You are not doing anything. And they will be there, only they leave this body and take another body. Okay. So that is the reason he says. And then for the next question of the at least any other question on this Atma Tattva, because that's the basis of it, because you'll never learn this in any of our school education, because this is nothing which has been straight away. Krishna is addressing the root of the cause, that is the soul. We are the soul and not the body. So whatever we are thinking, we have been only temporary here in this world, and then once the body leaves, we think. And scientists and things cannot do anything about the death. So even they have no answer to this consciousness. They are debating about it, whether it's in the brain or this and that, but still they have got no answers. But we in our Krishna here is very clearly telling us about this, that we are the soul and not the body, and we are, and that changes, and we only change from birth to birth thing. So the doctors say we say that we are the body of chemicals, but they don't know once what we say when a person passes away. We say he passed away. The body is there, all the parts are there. Who passed away? It's the soul which has passed away, isn't it? So it is there, and they have no answers in the modern science. Okay. So this is the tattva which we need to understand clearly, that we are the soul and not the body. Fine. And then comes to the next question was, then he says, okay, if you are the soul and not the body, then you have to do, while you are in this world, you have to do your duties for the body and for the soul. So if you don't do it, then what happens? Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be? He is a Kshatriya. If anybody scorns him or insults him, it's more painful, isn't it? So he's saying, your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your thing. And what could be more painful for you? So you have to do your duty as a Kshatriya, whether anything. And what is the outcome? Whether Prapyasi Swargam. So I'm sorry. That means whether you win the war, you will get, if you are losing the war, you die in the war, what happens? You will go to heaven because you are a pious person. But if you lose the war, if you win, you will get the kingdom. So what is this? It's a win-win situation. So he says, oh son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up and fight. It's a win-win situation. Why are you worried? Don't bother about the success or failure. All you have to do is do your duty. That's what here he's saying. And both the says in this win-win situation. So when he says there's no enjoyment, sense of enjoyment, he was saying, no? Here he's saying, if you don't do it and you run away from the battlefield, you will get much more because people will laugh at you. Okay. So this is what is there. So Krishna says, go fight. You will either win and get the kingdom, or you will lose and you'll go to heavenly planets. Both the things is good enough. There's nothing to lament. And then comes to the other question. Okay, this all understood? So Neham, that in this, so when he's saying that when you're doing your prescribed duty and you're doing it, you have to do it for the Lord. You have to do it and not worry about the results because it is the thing. So in this endeavor, whatever you're doing it for the Lord, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from most dangerous type of fear. Swalpam api asya dharmasya trayati mahoto bhaya. That is, in the spiritual journey, when you progress in it, and that will be there, which carry you from birth to birth. You won't lose. But whatever you have earned in the material, you have become a doctor and you have got so many property. But once you leave this, once you have the death, then you have to leave everything and go. And when you're born, you have to again start from the beginning, isn't it? But when the spiritual journey, it's not like that. If you have progressed 10%, when you come to the next birth, you start from the 10%. That you see, with many people, they'll have that natural tendency towards the spirituality. They will have naturally tend, some will be at different degrees, different levels. You see how they get attracted to it. That's because of there will be a continuity in them because of what they have done in their previous birth. So Krishna is clearly saying, in this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and only little advancement of this path can protect. And here we have the example of Hanuman. He burned the whole of Sri Lanka because why? Because Ravana was disrespectful to Lord Rama. No? He didn't give him a seat to sit and he was insulting the representation. So this enraged Rama, and burning a sitting is power. It is a sin. But when he did it for the Lord Rama, it is not sin. Anything you do for the Lord, it doesn't have any sinful reactions. So this is how he says. And then for the role model, that is when you have, he said, no, there's a laws of family traditions. So he says, it's there in the Vedas. He has given the Vedas, he says in the Vedas that the purpose of Vedas is to reach him. So you do a duty and you become a role model, then what happens? The others will follow. So even if there are no elders or anything, but you can set an example for the youngsters and for the things so that they can follow you. So here he says, all purpose served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir. Similarly, all purpose of Vedas can be served to one who knows the person. What is the purpose of Vedas we have? It is to realize the Lord. The purpose is how to live, how to get and come out of the clutches of this material world and go back to him. That is what is there. But what happens is, in Vedas, they only get stuck in the karma kanda. There are a lot of rituals and things, so they get stuck and they don't go beyond that. Because beyond the section of karma kanda, you have the upasa kanda, where they give the instructions how to go back to the Lord. The purpose is to go back to him. And to leave this world, don't get entangled, but we get stuck. So he says, you be a role model and show them the path so that the traditions won't be lost. Because Yudhishthira will be the king and he will take care of all the families, all the citizens. And how you have to do, that's what he says. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose and their aim is one. O beloved child of Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. Vyasmatpika buddhi rekha kuru nandana. That is, see here, Arjuna, when he was young, we have seen in Mahabharata how he had, when the Dronacharya had set a competition to shoot an arrow to the eye of the bird which he had kept in on the tree. And Arjuna said, I'm seeing only the eyes. He's not seeing anything else. He was that kind of determined person he was, So you have to have your guri. I think that the purpose should be, the aim is one. So if you are determined, then you will reach. Otherwise, if you are not determined, then your mind will go haywire. So for indecision, he says you have to be determined in the purpose. You should know what's the purpose in life and you must be firm in that and you have to progress. Those Chitta Prajna. So this is what the definition. So Arjuna is going to ask, how does the Chitta Prajna is? So then he talks, Karmani evadikaste ma paleshu kadanchana ma karma phala eturvu ma te swanga tvasakam. Anyone wants to volunteer to read this? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, shall I read?
Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities and never be attached to not doing your duty.
So what does it say? You have to do your duty, right? Your duty, because now as a Arjuna is a prescribed duty, says the duty is to fight. But you are not entitled to the fruits of action because you are not the cause. The result of whatever is happening there, we are not the cause. See, we might have, when you water the plants and all that, the plants grows. You take care of the plant and all that. But actual work is done by the plant, no, when it bears the fruit. All you have done is to take care of. You have done a part of it, and most of that is done by the plant itself, isn't it? You have not done actually created the fruit or anything, nor the seeds, nor did you give the sunlight, nor did you, and even the water you take from the earth and you pour the water. You didn't create the water. So there are many things which you have not done. Only a part of it would have done. So here he's saying, when you do any action or when you're doing a duty, you have only perform your duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits because you are not the cause of the results. Okay. So then you will be never, but you should not refrain from doing it. So this is something like, very confusing way. This is very important to understand because this is what continues to other chapters. So here Krishna is saying you do your duty and how you have to do it with the determination that you have to be resolute. This is your purpose, that you do your prescribed duty and not be entitled to the fruits of action. So this is the instruction he gives for answering that how you have to be determined. Okay. Because we are not the cause. And the self-realized person understands this, that he is not the cause and if the Lord is there, everything. See, when Hiranyakashipu was trying to kill Prahlad, he knew that he cannot kill him because there's no Lord over there. So he might have tried to put him in the fire or anything, but ultimately if you have to be burned out the thing, there's somebody else. You have done one action, but you couldn't achieve it because there were so many other factors. So you say you never consider yourself the cause of the results because, but you should do your duty. Okay. So now Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of sense desire which arise from mental concoction, and when this mind finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness." That is, now Arjuna wants to know how such a person can be. How such a Siddha Prajnana thing is, what is the symptoms? He asks a question. So that's when Bhagavan says, Prajati yada kaman sarvan patas manogatan atmani evatmana tusta stita prajna tadochati. So what he has to do is he has to give up the varieties of sense desire. Desire that this is I am doing it and I am the owner for this results, the fruits of activities. So I'm the thing. So if you give up that desire, that you are the ones, I am doing it, and mine, which arise from mental concoction, then what happens? If you do that, then his mind is satisfied with himself because he knows that he is not the cause of the results and he is only doing his work and the rest is the Lord's. Then only a person like that is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. Our example is the best is Prahlad Maharaj. He knew that nobody can disturb him because he was totally absorbed in the thing and he was not even upset that his own father was trying to kill him, He didn't. They put him, with trying to kill him with spears or with the snakes or even put him into fire. But still, he had not. All his senses were focused on the Lord. He didn't give him any desire for things. He was not even upset by his father. So he supposed to be that such a thing. He was Chitta Prajna. He was firm in that That's a Lord over there. So that is the determination. And why he talks about varieties of desire, sense desire here, that we need to look, because here Krishna is talking. When a man gives up all varieties of sense desire that comes from mental concoction, then only he'll be happy and peaceful in his self alone, and he's said to be pure destructive. Now we are going to look more, and our Prabhupada also was like that, because his focus was to fulfill his master's mission. That was all in his thought, and he was just preparing, and he underwent to many troubles and difficulties he had, but his mind was only on that. He wanted to fulfill that mission because his master has ordered him, and he has to spread the Krishna signs, Chaitanya's teachings. He had to spread that, and to English speaking. So he had to translate it to English, and he has to take it to them, and he had to make them understand. So that was his mission, and he went through many difficulties, and that too he could only get an opportunity when he was 60s, but he was determined. So that is what we say is transcendental pure consciousness. Okay. And what do you mean by sense desire? And how does this affect us? This year, Krishna is asked the question. So Krishna is going to explain. When he says we have varieties of sense desire, then how does that cause disturbance to a person? So let us understand this. How was supposedly harmless contemplation turn into established lust, anger, and fall down? How this sense desire does it? So Dhyayato Vinayan Piyosho, Saigas Teni Pajayate, Saigat Sajayate Kamau, Kamat Krodha Bijayate. Anyone reading this translation? Because this is the crest of what?
Jai Srila Prabhupada. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises.
So thank you, Mataji. So he keeps coming with this Kama Krodha Abhijayati, that Kama Krodha. So just if you see this picture here, there's a boy and he sees a girl, okay, and he starts, just might have just seen, or the girl would just see, and then slowly they get attracted to each other, and they want to get married. So, or married. And after some time that, when there are some desires are not satisfied, or there's some frustration and it might slowly, and they become too much attachment. So then lust develops. And if they're not able to satisfy their desires, then what happens? It results in anger. From the lust, anger arises. Or you can look at any object. You want to get a car, or you want to get something. Slowly, first you will think about this, then slowly you'll be meditating on that object of buying that car. And finally you get it, and then you'll become so much attached to that car. You like that shape, and you want to take care of it, and you don't want anybody to touch it. And then you see somebody else having a better car, then you start comparing, or you can, and you become so much, and then you start worrying that you might lose that car, or something will happen. And then what happens that last, when it happens, it becomes too attached to it, then the fear of losing it, or we are not able to satisfy, your anger arises. So this is what happens to any sense desire, anything on a material object, right? And then what happens from anger? Complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory, and from memory is bewildered, intelligence lost, and when intelligence lost, you fall down. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammoha smriti brahmaha, smriti brahmas buddhi nashra pranasha. So what is the thing? This is a cycle. What happens when you see a sense object, get attached to it, and you want to acquire it, and want to get, and once you get it, you become too lusty. That distress, that is the too much of attachment, lust arise. And from the lust, when you feel that you are going to lose it or everything, then you start becoming angry. And when that thing, and then delusion, then is slowly memory, and so lost. So what is the thing? The root cause is your sense object. It could be anything. It could be starting with a smoking, or with anything. It's a sense object. When you get attached, you become too thing, and the loses anger, and then this is. So you have to be regulated. You have to regulate things, and you have to think that everything is for the Lord. So only then you will get peace of mind. Otherwise, you will be caught in this material entanglement. So this is what Krishna is explaining here. And you want to read this thing is the one who needs to restrain us. Okay. So this is how we saw he was addressed compassion is that we are not the body, we are the soul. You're not killing the soul, you're only the body changes, they will take another body. And there is no enjoyment. He says you either will get the heaven or the kingdom. So what is that? It's a win-win situation. And for sinful activities, he says anything done for the Lord, no sin. Okay. And be a role model to prevent Varna Shankara. And this is serve the Lord with firm determination. Otherwise, you will be caught in that lust and anger and you will be determined. So you have to be firmly determined to do this. Okay. So this is how he explains to the Krishna. So unholy, what we understand from here, once you have to take time out to get the answers. So Arjuna surrenders to the Lord to get the thing. And we saw the characteristics of the spiritual master. And we learned who are we. This is what we learned. We are actually, once we get attached to our body, then we get into all these emotions. Okay. And to understand this, we need training in spirituality. And who will help us? Like the books, the gurus, and Chaitanya Guru is there, Nutyanas, Paramatma, and Siksha Gurus are the devotees. And we need to learn. Otherwise, not that easy to understand spirituality, isn't it? So these are the things which we take home for us about spiritual journey. Okay. So Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. So if there are any questions, because the big chapter, we just touched upon the thing. And in coming chapters, Krishna is going to elaborate more on these points which he has talked about. Okay. Vancha kalpatura abhyascha kripa sindhu avevacha patitam nam pavnepo vaishnavo namo namo. Annat Kota Vaishnav ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram, Hare Hare.